Welcome to the It Factor. We're Jemmy and I, exploring a new blog post by Mr. Len Kaplan, CEO of CDML, a managed service provider in Queens, NY, offering network management, voice over IP, unified communications as a service, cybersecurity, compliance, infrastructure as a service, cloud solutions, and Microsoft 365 and Azure solutions. If you're a small business owner or manage IT for a growing organization, this episode is for you.
You know, if I told you that you have like a literal ticking time bomb sitting in your server closet right now.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, programmed to go off exactly 3 years from the day you bought it, you would probably want to defuse it immediately, right?
Right. I mean, obviously.
But most businesses, they just lock the server room door, cross their fingers, and basically just hope for the best.
And that hope is exactly what we are dismantling today. We are taking a deep dive into a brilliant and frankly urgent article by Len Kaplan titled Warranties and Support, Your Lifeline Against Sudden Tech Meltdowns.
It's a great piece, really eye-opening.
It really is.
Yeah.
So the core mission for our conversation today is to completely change how you look at the technology you already own. We want to help you realize that what happens after you purchase a piece of hardware or, subscribe to a software platform is just as critical as the purchase itself.
Absolutely, because every single digital tool you rely on comes with a built-in ticking clock.
Yeah.
It's just a relentless countdown. And when that clock runs out, it is not just some minor inconvenience where your IT person has to spend an hour on hold.
Right. It's not a small hiccup.
No, it transforms into a massive, totally unpredictable business risk. I mean, it is the difference between a planned, budgeted upgrade and a catastrophic Tuesday morning where, your entire team is sent home because the network is just completely dead.
Exactly. So we are going to build this from the ground up, starting with the most visible, tangible part of that ticking clock, which is your physical hardware.
The stuff you can actually touch.
Right, exactly. We're talking about the machines sitting on your desks, the laptops in your bags, and the servers humming in your closets. The article makes a phenomenal point right out of the gate, which is that hardware failures are not just theoretical, maybe it will happen, possibilities.
Right.
They are inevitable physical realities. I mean, hard drives have spinning platters that warp, power supplies endure constant thermal stress.
Yeah, they get so hot.
They really do. And motherboards physically degrade over thousands of hours of electricity pulsing through them.
And it actually goes all the way down to the microscopic level, of the microchips themselves. Len Kaplan specifically points to a very recent, highly disruptive, real-world example, which was the 13th generation Intel processor.
Oh, right. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, and these were not cheap budget bin parts. These were top-of-the-line, high-end modern components powering serious workstations. But they had a flaw at the microcode level.
Wow.
The processors were basically requesting too much voltage, which literally began cooking the silicon from the inside out.
Wait, literally cooking it?
Literally cooking it. Systems were crashing unpredictably, throwing blue screens, and totally freezing up mid-test.
And because it was a known manufacturing defect, Intel eventually stepped in with replacements, right?
We did. But, and this is the absolute crux of the issue, that fix was only straightforward and painless if your system was actively covered by a warranty.
Ah, of course.
Right. If your coverage was active, the manufacturer just overnighted a replacement processor and you were back to work. But if you had let that warranty lapse because, I don't know, you were trying to save a few dollars on the renewal fee, you were entirely on your own.
Okay, let's unpack this because understanding the mechanism of that cost is crucial. It's like car insurance, You don't wait until the engine block cracks to buy a policy.
Exactly.
Because at that point, you aren't just buying a piece of silicon. You have to absorb the retail cost of a brand new high-end processor. Then you have to pay the emergency labor hours for an IT professional to rush to your office, carefully dismantle the workstation, clean off the thermal paste, install the new chip, update the systems, and run stress tests to ensure the new chip doesn't suffer the exact same fate.
It's a massive headache.
It really is. What should have been a free next-day hardware swap morphs into this massive, unexpected invoice, plus days of lost productivity for whoever uses that computer.
Precisely. It turns a vendor's engineering mistake into your financial emergency.
But I want to push back on the severity of this for a moment.
Sure.
Because as a business owner, you look around your office and you see, say, 20 different computers. Is it really that common for hardware to fail in a way that disrupts a whole business? Doesn't it just happen one computer at a time?
Right, like an isolated event.
Yeah. One of your accountants has a bad day, Their motherboard fries, you hand them a spare laptop, and the rest of the company keeps working without missing a beat, right, Gray?
What's fascinating here is how the actual mechanics of corporate purchasing completely undermine that logic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that leads us to a concept called clustered failures. You are entirely right that a single laptop dying is usually just a localized, easily managed headache. But think about it. Businesses rarely buy their technology one piece at a time.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. Think about how you actually scale your company. You open a new branch office, you onboard a whole new sales department, or you decide it is finally time to upgrade your core network infrastructure. When you do that, you buy in batches.
Right, you purchase 15 identical workstations or like 3 matching servers, all on the same purchase order.
Exactly. Devices from the same manufacturing batch experience the exact same lifespan. They have the same internal components, they endure the same daily wear and tear, and they operate in the exact same environmental factors, like, office temperature and dust.
Ah, I see the domino effect here.
Yeah.
Because they were bought together on the exact same day, they aged together.
Yep.
So, when you get 3 or 4 years down the line, these machines do not fail randomly. They fail in clusters. The thermal paste dries out on all 15 laptops within the exact same 2-month window.
Oh, wow.
Or the capacitors on those 3 matching servers start swelling at the exact same time.
So if you don't have a proactively staggered refresh cycle if you aren't intentionally replacing a fraction of your fleet every single year, all of those warranties are going to expire on the exact same afternoon.
And when they do, you are suddenly facing a scenario where 3 of your foundational servers or a dozen of your critical workstations start crashing within the same month, and literally none of them have vendor support.
That is terrifying.
Right. It is no longer a localized IT issue where you just hand someone a spare laptop. You are now trying to source enterprise-grade replacement parts during a global supply chain squeeze, attempting to migrate massive amounts of sensitive data off failing drives, all while your employees are just sitting around unable to do their jobs.
It's a cascading operational nightmare. Exactly. It can bring your entire revenue-generating operation to a grinding halt.
It takes a predictable, manageable budget line item, like an annual warranty renewal, and turns it into an absolute financial catastrophe. So we've firmly established that physical hardware breaks loudly, visibly, and often in clusters.
Very loudly, yes.
But the article shifts to a second threat, and this one is entirely invisible. We need to talk about the silent danger of unsupported software.
Yeah, this is where the risk profile changes dramatically. Because unlike a hard drive, software doesn't physically rust. You cannot hear a piece of code starting to grind or click when it is failing.
Right, there's no smoke coming out of Microsoft Word.
Exactly. It doesn't overheat, but it becomes incredibly dangerous the exact moment it reaches what vendors call the end of support phase of its life cycle.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the way people view software is fundamentally flawed. We tend to think of software like a hammer. You buy a hammer, you put it in your tool box, and 20 years later, it still drives a nail perfectly fine.
But software is not a hammer?
Right? It is a living, breathing entity that exists within a constantly shifting ecosystem. But again, let me play the ultimate devil's advocate for the listener right now.
Go for it.
If my old version of Word still types documents perfectly fine, or if my old legacy operating system still runs my custom inventory database without crashing, why should I care about an update? It feels like forced obsolescence pushed by big tech companies just to squeeze more money out of me.
I mean, it is a completely fair question, and it is the exact reason so many businesses get breached. It comes down to understanding that stability in the software world is often a complete illusion.
An illusion.
Yeah. Your old version of Word or your legacy database might look exactly the same on your screen today as it did 5 years ago, but the environment around it, the global internet, is constantly evolving and becoming way more hostile. When a piece of software reaches end of support, it doesn't mean the software stops working. It means the manufacturer stops providing security updates and vulnerability patches. They stop writing code to fix newly discovered bugs. The safety net doesn't just fray, it vanishes entirely.
And the attackers know exactly when that safety net drops.
Well, they map their entire business models around it. There is a thriving, highly lucrative dark web economy built entirely around zero-day vulnerabilities in unsupported software.
Wow.
Let's look at the mechanics of how this actually works. When a major software vendor releases a security patch for their current supported software, hackers will immediately reverse engineer that patch.
Really?
Yeah. They look at the code to see exactly what vulnerability the vendor just fixed. Then, they look at the older, unsupported versions of that same software to see if the vulnerability exists there too, and of course it usually does.
Oh, man.
But because the software is past its end of support date, the vendor is never going to release a patch for the old version.
So the hackers essentially get a treasure map pointing directly to an open window in your digital infrastructure.
Exactly.
And they know for a fact that the window will never, ever be closed by the manufacturer.
Exactly. It becomes a permanent, unfixable entry point for ransomware. But even if we entirely ignore the cybersecurity threat for a second, which we definitely shouldn't, there is a massive operational risk to old software.
Because everything is connected now.
Right. The technology ecosystem is deeply interconnected. Newer tools, cloud integrations, and basic regulatory compliance requirements rely on modern communication protocols. You might love your 10-year-old accounting software, but one day your bank is going to update its application programming interface, its API, to a new, secure standard.
And your old software won't know how to talk to it.
Exactly. Your old accounting software will not know how to speak that new language. It won't be able to pull your bank feeds. It will simply refuse to integrate.
It is silent rot. It looks perfectly fine and stable until the exact moment it entirely collapses and severs your workflow. And hey, by the way, if you are finding these insights helpful for your business so far, please take a quick second to hit that thumbs up button on your app. It genuinely helps us reach more business owners who might be unknowingly sitting on their own ticking tech time bombs.
It makes a huge difference, absolutely.
So let's connect the dots here. We have covered the endpoints, the machines sitting on the desks, the hardware, and we've covered the logic running on the software. But Len Kaplan's article brings up a third critical element. What about the invisible roads connecting all of this data together? That brings us to your network equipment.
Yeah, the hidden weak link of almost every organization. We are talking about your routers, your network switches, and most importantly, your edge firewalls.
And these devices are famously the installed and forgotten heroes of the corporate office.
Oh, big time.
Right. Some IT contractor mounts a metal box to a piece of plywood in a utility closet 5 years ago. The little green lights blink, and literally no one ever looks at it again unless the internet goes down.
Yep. Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. But it's like having a security guard who's fallen asleep at the desk. But wait, I have to ask. Most small business owners only look at their router when the Wi-Fi drops. How dangerous is an outdated firewall, really? If the lights are blinking and the Wi-Fi is connected and employees can still load web pages, the internet is technically working.
This raises an important question, actually, because there is a massive fundamental misconception about what network equipment actually does, especially a firewall. A lot of people think a firewall is just a dumb pipe that delivers internet to your building, or maybe a static brick wall that keeps bad guys out.
Yeah, that's what I always pictured.
Right, but an enterprise firewall is not a brick wall. It is much more accurate to think of it as a biological immune system.
Okay, I like this analogy. Walk us through how that works mechanically.
Sure. Modern firewalls perform something called deep packet inspection. As data flows into your business from the internet, the firewall doesn't just look at the return address on the envelope. It actually rips open the data packets in real time, in fractions of a millisecond, to inspect the actual code inside, looking for malicious payloads or known virus signatures.
That is wild that it happens that fast.
It is, but the rules for what constitutes malicious code change every single day. Hackers develop new methods of intrusion, new ransomware variants, and new phishing mechanisms constantly.
So how does the firewall know what to look for if the threats are brand new?
Through firmware updates provided by the manufacturer. If the firewall is the immune system, the firmware updates are the constant stream of vaccines. They teach the hardware how to recognize the newest pathogens.
Ah, I see.
When a firewall reaches its end-of-life phase, the manufacturer stops releasing those firmware updates.
Which means the immune system stops learning.
Exactly. If your firewall has not had a firmware update in 3 years, it only has antibodies for threats from 3 years ago. It is completely blind to modern attacks.
Wow.
A lethal, modern ransomware variant can walk right through your front door, and your outdated firewall will simply wave it through because it doesn't recognize the pathogen. It is a direct exposure point to your entire internal network.
That is terrifying when you put it that way. The lights are still blinking green, making you feel safe, but the brain inside the machine is essentially dead to the modern threat landscape.
And we can't forget the physical toll on network equipment either. Think about the strain. Your network switches and firewalls do not sleep. They run 24/7 by 365.
That is a lot of wear and tear.
Exactly. They process billions, sometimes trillions of data packets over their lifespan. They sit in closets that often aren't properly ventilated. The power supplies endure constant voltage fluctuations. When a core switch finally burns out from sheer exhaustion and it is past its end-of-life date, there are zero replacement parts available.
You can't just run out and buy a new part.
No. You cannot just run to a local electronics store and buy an enterprise-grade 48-port managed switch.
Right, because it requires specific configuration to map to your server infrastructure.
Precisely. So your entire office goes dark, you have no internet access, your voice-over IP phones go dead, your wireless access points drop, and you can't even print a document. And you will sit in that state of total paralysis for days or weeks while you scramble to source, purchase, ship, and configure a completely new networking infrastructure from scratch.
Which perfectly transitions us to the absolute bottom line of this whole deep dive. With hardware aging in silent clusters, software vulnerabilities being actively traded on the dark web, and network firewalls operating with zero modern antibodies, what does it actually cost a business to ignore this? And more importantly, how do we fix it?
Right.
The article outlines the real cost of reacting versus the value of strategic management, specifically highlighting the CDML approach.
Yeah, it is incredibly easy for you as a business owner to look at a quote for warranty renewals or, a proposal to replace a firewall that still technically turns on and view it as an optional expense. Human nature tells us that if everything is working today, we shouldn't spend the money.
Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. But the harsh reality of corporate IT is that the cost of reacting to a crisis is always, always exponentially higher than the cost of planning for it.
So what does this all mean? To me, it sounds like the traditional break-fix IT model where you only call an IT guy when something is literally smoking is a fundamentally toxic relationship.
Oh, it really is.
It's like performing regular, predictable oil changes versus being forced to buy a whole new engine while you're stranded on the side of the highway. You are relying on a model where the IT provider only makes money when you're in pain and you are forced to pay emergency premiums, rush shipping, and off-hours labor rates just to get back to zero.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, CDML's entire philosophy is to completely invert that model. Their goal is to turn unpredictable, chaotic, highly expensive tech failures into controlled, planned, boring events.
Boring is good in business.
Boring is very good. Technology is supposed to be the engine that empowers your business growth. It shouldn't be a source of constant anxiety that surprises your quarterly budget with massive emergency invoices.
But how do they actually execute that mechanically? It is easy to say be proactive, but what does proactive lifecycle management actually look like in practice?
It starts with total visibility. When you partner with a managed service provider like CDML Computer Services, they don't just wait for your phone to ring with a problem. They deploy management agents that actively track the exact expiration dates of every single hardware warranty, every software license, and every firewall support contract across your entire organization. They build a master timeline of your tech debt.
So there are literally no surprises.
None. And then they help you stagger your hardware refresh cycles. Instead of buying 20 computers at once and having them all die 4 years later, they help you replace 20% of your fleet every single year.
Oh, that is brilliant. So you never get hit with those clustered failures we talked about.
Exactly. It flattens the curve of your IT spending. It turns what used to be a massive, terrifying capital expenditure every 5 years into a smooth, predictable operating expense. You know exactly what your IT spend will be next year and the year after that.
That brings so much peace of mind.
Yeah. Furthermore, they standardize your hardware and software environments. If everyone is using the same model of laptop or the same standardized software stack, managing it becomes incredibly efficient. If a machine does fail, swapping it out is a plug-and-play operation because everything is uniform, which dramatically reduces employee downtime.
It is moving from a mentality of, who do I call when the building is on fire?
Yeah.
To hiring a strategic partner who installs the sprinklers, checks the smoke detectors, and fireproofs the entire building so the fire never starts in the first place.
That's a great way to put it.
And speaking of fireproofing your business strategies, I want to quickly remind you that the CDML blog publishes new, incredibly practical posts for small business owners, just like this one every Tuesday and Thursday. You can visit cdml.com, that is cd-dml-l.com, and subscribe to the blog so you never miss an update. It is hands down one of the best ways to stay informed and protect your operations without getting overwhelmed by dense tech jargon.
It really is a phenomenal resource, and Len Kaplan has a gift for translating complex IT risks into plain business strategy. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final, very tangible thought to ponder today based on everything we've discussed.
Okay, let's hear it.
Sometime today, I want you to walk around your office or just look closely at the equipment in your own home office setup. Look at the router in the closet, the software you use for invoicing, or the server in the back room. Try to identify just one critical device or one essential software program that you know for a fact is over 5 years old and is likely unsupported by the manufacturer.
I feel like everyone has at least one of those.
Exactly. Found it. Now ask yourself this very specific question. If that single piece of technology permanently died at exactly 9:00 a.m. tomorrow morning, what would it actually cost your business? Installed operations, lost employee time, emergency consulting fees, and sheer frustration to get it running again.
That is a sobering question.
It really is. The answer to that question is exactly why proactive lifecycle management is not an IT expense. It is a fundamental business insurance policy.
We're Jemmy and Nye. Thanks for listening. Till next time.